The use of force in Chicago, quote, shocks the conscience, a federal judge says before issuing a sweeping injunction against federal immigration agents. Reliable service, better safety, cleaner rides. Lawmakers and transit officials promise all of those things for the CTA, PACE, and Metra, thanks to a $1.5 billion bill. Air travel torture, what new FAA shutdown guidelines could mean for people flying out of O'Hare and Midway. I don't know about you, I'm kind of glad I'm not flying over the next few weeks. Welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz. Losses are piling up in federal court for the Department of Homeland Security. Yesterday, temporary restraining order mandating better conditions at the Broadview ICE facility. And today, Judge Sara Ellis issues an injunction restricting the use of force and tear gas against protesters. And she says Trump administration officials' claims of the situation on the ground cannot be trusted. Plaintiffs who brought the case praised the judge's ruling today, calling it vindication after they say their First Amendment rights were violated.
The court has affirmed that what happened to us was wrong, that our right to speak, to gather, and to protest is still protected by the First Amendment. The court's ruling makes it clear our voices matter. Judge Ellis said, quote, I don't find the government's version of events credible, after lawyers for the Trump administration argued tear gas and use of force was necessary during raids in Old Irving Park, Evanston, Little Village, and other places. Quote, the use of force shocks the conscience, Ellis said.
The government has this narrative that they're putting out in sound bites and on Fox News that, oh, criminality, lawlessness, riots in the street. It's just not true. So at the hearing, it was a time for evidence. And when we put on the evidence was protesters are protesting peacefully, and they're being shot at, and they're being gassed.
Plaintiffs also say sworn deposition testimony from Operation Midway Blitz frontman Gregory Bovino reveals he lied about the justification for using tear gas during a Little Village raid. He initially said he was hit in the head with a rock before, but then admitted under oath the rock came at him after he had tossed the canister. Attorneys say they don't believe Bovino is to be trusted.
Every single time that Greg Bovino violates the injunction in this case, we and the community report on it. We will file something with the court. We will make a record, and we will ask for sanctions.
The Department of Homeland Security responded harshly, calling it, quote, an extreme act by an activist judge that risks the lives and livelihoods of law enforcement officers. They say they will appeal. And meanwhile tonight, state lawmakers are touting the new $1.5 billion transit bill as transformative. Now, last night we heard from the House Republican leader. Tonight, we're joined by Democratic Illinois House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch, whose home district, of course, is Westmont. Speaker Welch, thanks very much. Westmont, right over the bridge from the Broadview facility. The General Assembly passed these new restrictions on where federal agents can go to enforce. Just run that down for us.
Yeah. Let me say, first of all, you've seen the videos. You've seen them on your channel. You've seen them on social media. What's going on in our city is unprecedented, unprecedented. And going in a veto session, we knew we had to do something about it. And we passed a bill that I believe protects all communities, no matter where you are. This is a community protections bill. It makes certain places in our state safe spaces. What we saw yesterday with a teacher being yanked out of a daycare center, when this bill is signed into law, that's illegal, and there will be a private right of action available to that person.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you, because what the federal government has said, that they have federal supremacy here, that they can violate some of these state or city laws due to federal law. So what would be the legal recourse then?
Well, first of all, the federal government is saying a lot of things that's not true. As we saw Judge Ellis said today in court, states have rights under our federalism system of government. And this was created hundreds of years ago. The brilliance of it is playing out now. States have rights. We have the ability to pass laws based on our sovereign rights. And under our bill, HB 1312, hospitals, courthouses, daycare centers, higher education campuses, these are safe spaces. People should be able to go to these places without fear of these troopers coming in mass and tearing them away.
So when this law is activated, for instance, the woman at the daycare yesterday would be able to take a private right of action then against these agents?
Let me stress it this way. she would be able to take a private right of action for violating her constitutional rights. People have due process rights. In this case, we understand she had a worker's permit. Did they have a judicial warrant? If they didn't have a judicial warrant and they violated her rights and arrested her the way they did, she would have a private right of action.
Clearly, they don't have a judicial warrant, and we've been told by her attorneys and by Congressman Quigley that she is actually an asylum seeker waiting for her claim to be adjudicated, so she has legal status.
She's done everything right, and she would be the type of person under the new law that's passed in Illinois, she would have a private right of action in court.
All right, let's move on to the transit bill. So we talked a little bit to the minority leader yesterday, who was upset that the funding mechanism here, the road fund, it's going to take money that might have been for downstate road projects diverted up here. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, first of all, let me say that, we had a transit working group that I put together almost 2 years ago, and we had representation from the Republican leadership on that working group and Representative Brad Stevens, who co-sponsored the bill. He would have voted for it if he wasn't sick last week, but he's very proud of the bill just like we are. This was a good bill. We were going to have to pay for it some way. And this was a bill that I agreed with, the Senate agreed with, the governor agreed with, labor agreed with. Principals came together and put this bill together. And it's a good bill. Is it a perfect bill? No. But this is a bill that brings necessary reforms to the system, and it's fully paid for. And year after year, these systems that needed it can look forward to this funding. And now it's going to be transformative. We're going to be able to have safety and reliability. That's going to increase ridership. It's going to be a world-class system for a world-class city.
You know, the other thing that Leader McCombie had said is that the fiscal cliff was only around $230 million at the end of the day. This is $1.5 billion. So what do you get for that extra $1.2 billion?
Well, one of the things we heard about in all of the work we've done over the last 2 years is that we have to improve the system. That in order to bring riders back that we lost because of COVID, we have to increase reliability. Some things need to change to increase reliability, better coordination of all of the systems, better collaboration of all of these different fiefdoms, and we have to improve safety. That costs money. There's a new multi-jurisdictional law enforcement agency that's going to help keep these trains and buses safe. Reliability, safety equals ridership, and that costs money.
Can we assume the days of ghosting buses are going to be in the past with this regular service, 8 or 10 minutes apart, the way people want it to be?
I tell you, I believe the new NITA board, the Northern Illinois Transportation Authority Board, which is going to be a board that brings about accountability, is going to eliminate all of that type of stuff. I believe we got it right, and that's why we took our time. We got it right. This was done in a bipartisan way. Representative Stevens in the House, Senator Seth Lewis in the Senate. We got it right, because there's a lot of things that we do that Republicans don't even vote for at all. And I think that was a testament to them acknowledging that this was a good piece of legislation.
A lot of other pieces of legislation passed very early hours of the morning, although one thing that we kind of knew wasn't going to was the tax certainty law for the Bears, even though they had wanted it in the veto session. So does that mean, is it something lawmakers will be open to in the fall? In the spring?
Listen, Paris, let me tell you, when I'm out there right now, when our members are out there, people are talking about cost of living. They're talking about affordability. What are things that are going to bring energy costs down? What are things that are going to bring property taxes down? What are things that are going to make sure trains and buses run on time so they can get to work? They're not talking about the Chicago Bears, other than asking for them to win more football games. And so I think it would be tone deaf of us if we were prioritizing stadiums over, transit, over community protections from ICE and Border Patrol. And that's what we did. We stayed focused, we stayed disciplined. And we got the things done that people are talking about at their kitchen table.
So they might have a math problem with lawmakers again in the spring. We'll see how that plays out. I want to touch on one more bill, this energy bill that's going to help out some clean energy. It's going to allow nuclear plants to be built again, but also more funding for battery storage, which is important for wind and solar and stuff like that to preserve that energy. But Republicans are saying, but it's not going to do anything about your energy bill that's been going up.
Every expert that we've talked to, again, another group that took its time to get it right, has said this is going to be legislation that helps in the short term and in the long term. It's going to bring costs down in the short term and long term. Virtual power plants, efficiency programs, the lifting of the nuclear ban. It's all about increasing supply. The battery storage, all of that leads to increasing supply. The more you can increase supply, the more you'll bring down prices. And because now we have certainty when the governor puts his signature on this bill and makes it law, this certainty is going to help bring down costs in the short term. The implementation is going to help in the long term. It's going to be some legislation that we're going to be proud of, just like we were proud of CEJA in 2021.
All right, very productive veto session. House Speaker Chris Welch, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank
and
you.
We're about to talk to Kirk Dillard from the RTA, so stick around if you want. More on the nitty-gritty of that transit bill right after this.